Hey everyone, hope you're all having an amazing day. Today we're going to attempt to answer one of the most frustrating questions in the game, which is better, crit damage or offense? The answer to that, unfortunately, is it depends, and that is what we're going to aim to determine today. Now there's always going to be exceptions, but we're going to talk about the general rules that apply to most characters in the game, and some common exceptions that will determine whether you want to mod a character with crit damage or offense. We're going to talk about both sets and triangles, so be sure to sit tight and enjoy the video. So starting up, we're going to talk about the mod sets, a 4-piece crit damage set versus a 4-piece offense set. A crit damage set is going to offer plus 30% critical damage, and an offense set would offer plus 15% offense. Offense increases your base damage, and crit damage is the amount your damage is multiplied by when you score a critical hit. Now for this, we're not including superior speed and offense secondaries, as this can really turn the table for most characters. This is purely a flat crit damage set versus a flat offense set, not taking secondaries into account, and which is better for the majority of characters is going to depend on how much crit chance the character has. So each character has 2 crit chance stats, physical crit chance and special crit chance, and each character will usually only use one of these based on the type of attacks they use. Which of these stats are used by the character can easily be found by reading their ability descriptions. For example, let's take Mother Talzin. Each of her 3 abilities are based on her special damage, which means her crit chance of her abilities is going to be the special crit chance. Physical crit chance will have 0 effect on her skills, and although crit chance from mods applies to both of the stats, often the base numbers for these stats will be different. Let's take a look at Talzin's. As you can see, my Talzin's physical crit chance is 21%, but this is not used by her, so we need to look at a special crit chance, which is 26%. The same rule applies in reverse, so let's take a look at Jedi Knight Anakin, whose attacks are based on physical damage, which means his crit chance is going to be physical crit chance. My Anakin has 68% physical crit chance, however if we take a look at his special crit chance, it's only 23%. Luckily though, Anakin's attacks are not based off special damage, so this stat is meaningless. Now there are a few characters who use both physical and special attacks, such as Asajj Ventress and Tarkin, and these are harder to determine, but personally I would base it off which of the attacks is the most important. For example, with Asajj, the basic is a lot more important than the third ability, so I'd base her off physical crit chance. However, for Tarkin, most of his damage is going to come from the slow charging ultimate firepower, so even though his basic is physical damage, we're going to look at the special critical chance stat with him. Sorry if this is off topic, but it is relevant for the video. So with that out of the way, you know how to read each of your character's stats, so you can make an informed decision based on the following. For most characters, there is a break-even point with crit chance, where it makes crit damage superior to offense, and for the majority of characters, this is between 85 and 90% crit chance. You need to keep in mind that some characters will get additional crit chance from unique abilities, leader abilities, and common buffs in battle. For example, let's look at my Raidhan, who deals physical damage. So he has 69% crit chance, but his unique offers him an additional 20% crit chance, bringing him to 89%, which is over the point which makes crit damage sets better for him. In addition, he also grants the buff crit chance up, which brings him to 104% crit chance most of the time. So as you can see, you need to look into the character's kit and the uniques of the characters on the team to find the true crit chance they are going to have. Reading the stat isn't always the final number. There's also characters like Asajj Ventress and the Wampa who gain stacking crit chance throughout the battle, which for sure needs to be taken into account when determining which mod set to use. So with that all out of the way, we're going to sum it up. The majority of the time, if a character has around 85 to 90% crit chance or higher, you're going to want to use a crit damage set over an offense set. If they have under 85% crit chance, an offense set is going to be better for them. So with that all out of the way, let's talk about the primary on your triangle. This one is going to be a lot easier to determine for the most part. Using the same rules as the sets, this again is going to be determined by the crit chance that character has, and the general threshold for this is if a character has over 20% crit chance, a crit damage primary is going to be better than an offense primary on the triangle. So for most characters in the game, a crit damage triangle is almost always going to be better than an offense triangle, as most characters will easily have over 20% crit chance. The threshold for the triangle primary is a lot lower than the set, as a crit damage triangle at 6C offers a 42% increase to critical damage, as opposed to a 6C offense primary, which only offers 8.5% more offense, meaning as long as we're critting a reasonable amount, the crit damage triangle is going to offer us a lot more benefit overall. So let's sum up the answer to the question, which is better, crit damage or offense? If your character has 0 to 19% crit chance, you're going to be best using an offense set with an offense primary triangle. If your character has 20 to 84% crit chance, you're going to be best using an offense set with a crit damage primary triangle. And finally, if your character has 85% crit chance or more, you're going to be best using a crit damage set with a crit damage primary triangle. I'm saying 85%, but for some characters it could be 90%. The small gap between 85 and 90% is heavily debated, as they're almost equal at this point. However, I personally feel that 85% crit chance, crit damage on both set and triangle is better in practice. So that's how to determine whether to use offense or crit damage sets and triangles on your characters, not taking better secondaries into account. However, it doesn't end there, unfortunately, as there's more factors you're going to have to take into consideration when deciding how to mod a character. And the first of these is what you're most likely going to be fighting. This is because there's a lot of characters and even teams in the game that have a lot of anti-crit hit mechanics built into them. And in these cases, depending on how much they reduce your crit hit ratio, will impact how you decide to mod your characters. For example, let's look at Darth Malak, who gains crit avoidance throughout the battle. If you're planning to use a Jedi Knight Anakin against him, you are likely going to want to mod him with offense, because you're going to need that extra damage to get through Malak, as once he gets to a certain point, he's going to gain over 100% crit avoidance, which would mean you're going to get more damage out by using an offense set. So in this scenario, you are likely going to want to use an offense set with an offense triangle, so you have the additional damage to bring Malak down. Another important team is Padme Galactic Republic squads, who cannot be crit while they have protection up, and they have GK, who is going to be granting his allies crit hit immunity frequently, which means when fighting this team you are most certainly going to want offense over crit damage regardless of your critical chance. So in this scenario, you would likely want to use an offense set with an offense triangle. Traya squads are another squad to watch out for, as a lead will grant Sith 40% critical avoidance. So if you're fighting against Traya squads, you're most likely going to want an offense set with a crit damage triangle. Let's say for example you have a character fighting a Traya squad with 90% crit chance. Traya lead is going to remove 40% of this with a crit avoidance, leaving you with only 50% crit chance, which puts you in the category of being best using an offense set with a crit damage triangle. We will look at one final example. Let's say we're doing a Jedi Knight Revan mirror match and are deciding how to mod our Grandmaster Yoda, who uses special damage, so he has 30% crit chance in his stats. He will gain an additional 40% crit chance from the Jedi Knight Revan lead, and will have the crit chance up buff most of the time, which brings his crit chance to about 85%. But we're still going to use an offense set on him. This is because the opposing Jolee will gain critical avoidance equal to half of his tenacity, meaning he's going to be a lot harder to crit and will fall well below the 85% crit chance threshold when attacking him. Because he's the key piece we need to kill quickly to win the battle, we're going to get a lot more damage on him by using an offense set with a crit damage triangle, as most likely we're still going to have over 20% crit chance when attacking him. I almost forgot to mention Revan's hero unique, which will also offer 10% critical avoidance to the enemy team and 20% to himself, so our chance to critically hit is even lower on the rest of the team too. That's just a few examples. There are other characters that will have anti-crit kits that will come into play, so be sure to look into the team's kits you're planning to use your teams against when deciding how to mod them. Crit avoidance arrows are also something to keep in mind. A lot of people are now using crit avoidance arrows on certain characters, which will heavily impact your choice on how to mod the characters you're planning to use against them. Most of the time these are placed on certain tanks or other key characters such as Old Daka. A 6C critical avoidance arrow will grant 35% critical avoidance to its owner. We have talked a bit about critical avoidance overall, but what it basically does is it blocks the percentage of crit chance you have when attacking. For example, if you were to hit an Old Daka who has a 6C critical avoidance arrow on, with a character that has 40% crit chance, your chance to crit against her would only be 5%, so these arrows can really cause issues for you. The final thing to keep in mind is there's a couple of characters who deal true damage, such as ARC Trooper's Turret and the Droideka. True damage can never crit, so for any character that deals true damage, be sure to mod them purely for offense, as crit damage is going to have zero effect for your attacks. And there we have it everyone. I hope you all learned some great basic points on how to decide whether to use crit damage or offense sets on your characters. As you can see, there's a lot of factors to take into account, and the exact crit chance threshold for each character will vary, but it's generally between the 85% to 90% crit chance area, so this is a safe place to make the call. This is a question I get so much. I'm so happy I've finally made a video giving you all the tools to make the choice yourself depending on each character. Unfortunately though, as said, it really depends per character. There's no straight answer that either offense or crit damage is better generally, as the answer is different for every character in the game, and in some cases it's so close that people will argue for both sides. As always everyone, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, join my Discord server and share the video with your friends. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you all very soon.